Welcome, Monika. Good afternoon.
Hi, Łukasz. Great to be here with you.
Great to have you with us. And we have a very interesting topic to talk about today, and that is how to support parents while preventing the creation of a pay gap. Let me start with the most obvious question. What kind of pay gap risk are we talking about?
Well, obviously, we are talking about women and men and the differentiation of their salaries, right? This is the topic that is not relevant to one or two companies, but to the whole sector, to the whole industry. And this is also something that is quite well, I would say, described in the newspapers, in media.
Your achievements in this field could be described as milestones, landmarks, really. Back in 2018, you were the first ones to be certified as having equal pay in your company. Can you comment on that?
Yes, absolutely. So equal salary certification that we have received in 2018 indeed is our pride, because we were the first and only company in Poland that have received this certification. But actually, it's not like the end, this one-time event that we managed to get in 2018, because since then we had actually two more audits reconfirming this certification last year and this year as well. So basically, this certification and the whole audit process that is linked with achieving it told us that we have no pay gap in our company. So this is first and absolutely fantastic news for us. However, it also showed us that there are some areas that might be risk areas. And if we don't pay attention to those areas, we might risk in having the pay gap. That's why it is so important for us to really monitor those risk areas. And also, just to maybe go a bit deeper, one of those risk areas that potentially could create the pay gap is linked with the maternity, right? Maternity leaves, because we know that it's not only specific to Philip Morris, but in general, the fact that women, they are spending quite some time with the kid on the maternity leave. Sometimes it happens that they are not taken into account for some promotions, salary increases, etc. So this is the topic that was super important for us to really think how to diminish this risk. And then we created kind of our internal little revolution, which was called Happy Parents Program.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, you said that back in 2018, you were the first one to certify your pay gap policy. Hopefully, we can't use present perfect yet. You have been the first one. There are more companies certified now, I'm sure, over the past 2 years.
Look, to be very frank with you, I'm not sure if there is any other company in Poland that have received this certification. I know that some of them were in process, as we were really the leader in this. So some of them contacted us to get some best practices from our experience.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the differences between mothers and fathers in the context of pay gap in your company. Weren't you one of the first companies in Kraków to propose a kindergarten solution for your employees?
Yes, absolutely. We've got Misie Filipisie kindergarten, which is very close to our company, and yes, we were one of the first ones who were proposing this solution to our parents.
When we started the conversation today, I remember it was Philip who mentioned that one of the ways that has made us explore a different understanding of diversity was how home office changed the roles and impacted the roles within a household. What's your understanding of the situation now, and how have you acted as a company since, say, March, April 2020?
Okay. Well, it won't be surprised if I tell that the situation changed many different things in many different areas, how we are working together, as it's pretty obvious. But what we did, and I think it's let us really to have the good understanding of the situation, is the fact that, first of all, since March, we've got 3 engagement surveys to our employees. So we were really very carefully monitoring how do they feel, how the working arrangements and their personal situation is really impacting their life, their work, and all the challenges that they might face. So it was very good indication of the fact, really in this quantitative manner, I would say, how they are coping with this new situation. And obviously, based on this, we could identify some of the challenges. However, surprising thing was that actually there was no single group when you look at the working arrangements, meaning working either alone at home or maybe working with kids, that really impacted drastically the engagement of the employees. That's why when it comes to the actions that were taken after, and we were thinking about all employees, not to really somehow distinguish one of the group specifically. What's more, we also had some focus groups to really understand what are the challenges that people cope. So not only looking at the numbers or the quantities that went to us through those engagement surveys, but also at the quality, let's say, of the answers. And then the struggles with, for example, such topics like homeschooling, right? Or just being with the kids under one roof and integrating family life with the work. It was nothing specific to the gender, which was also kind of surprise for us. So both women and men, they really shared the challenges. And that's why when it comes to different solutions that we have offered to our employees during this time, we try to be, of course, targeting those challenges that they have indicated during those discussions with them, but then also to be broad in that sense to really provide something that can be applicable to different groups. So, for example, just to be specific, employee assistance program, right? So this is really a support, psychological support that our employees can really have in case they need to have a support from somebody. We also had some webinars that are really supporting the mental health of the people. So many different solutions to really support our employees.
Tell me, how structured was the process of getting those voices heard from within your workforce, your employees? Because those needs would emerge in the dynamic of the situation, I would imagine. So you must have developed some consistent tools for getting those voices heard.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we are in a pretty lucky situation also to be part of the big global company that is looking at those challenges in a unique way and also consistent way across different countries. So when it comes to those engagement surveys, this is something that we didn't have as the Poland as the only country, but it was done across PMI. And there was certain approach that was taken already before to those tools. However, now with this COVID situation, PMI took decision to really focus a bit more. So for example, in April, we had kind of the additional engagement survey that was very specific to this COVID situation, okay? So I would say that on one hand, there is a certain structure behind that was already prepared, not even taking into account the COVID, but then also this element of flexibility to really ask what we need to ask at the moment that is coming.
As you yourself indicate, with COVID-19 came different types of inequalities and disruptions stretching all the way to household responsibilities. What would be the most critical outcomes of that situation from your perspective? I mean, what kind of inequalities, in additional to what you've already said, are we talking about?
That's a
Not
great
an easy question, I know.
Yes.
Because my next one would be about pay gap, because we are talking about pay gap here. So to give you a little time to think about this question, let me indicate the next one, because a lot of people understand intuitively what a pay gap is and what its consequences are. But in your experience, I believe you have a much deeper understanding, having certified this process, what the practicalities of removing the pay gap are.
Okay. Look, I think that the pay gap challenge that many companies face is not really linked with the COVID so directly. I mean, for us, really, we have during this process of having the audit and also this confirmation audit that we went through this year, and actually, it was in autumn, so after this first wave of COVID, that were not many different things identified or showed as the risks versus previous years. I mean, actually, we managed to close those risks. So for us, the COVID situation was not the one that was impacting this. However, I can imagine that for some companies, it might be that, especially, combination of those roles, like being at home with the kids and then working, it might be the factor that can impact it, right? But it really depends on the policies. For us, we can say, and we are also having it confirmed by the audit, that this impact was not really shown there.
So going back to this pay gap aspect, what are the positive outcomes that you have already seen emerging from introducing such measures earlier in 2018, I would imagine?
Sure. So I just mentioned the Happy Parents program at the beginning after your first question, which was our internal revolution. And it was linked a lot with this risk of really some women being long on the maternity leave and not having the chances for the promotion, or their salaries just not being increased during this moment. So this Happy Parents program is our program that is really aiming at supporting the parents. And first big thing linked with this program is the fact that whenever the person, and I'm telling really person because it's not necessarily a mother, it can be a father who is taking this leave for a longer period of time. If the person skips this yearly increase program, yearly salary increase program that we have in PMI, then when the person gets back to work, automatically we give this increase just to really prevent creation of the pay gap. So this is the first and the big thing. The second thing that is also, I would say, even from my personal perspective, a great tool for loyalization of the employees. It's linked with the fact that when the person gets back from this long leave of absence, linked with motherhood or parenthood, then for the first month after getting back, the person is receiving 100 of the salary, but is able to work on the 50% of the time. And it's absolutely great because, this first month after really a big gap, usually it's year or even more of the time gap, and then you get back to work, you have to find your own rhythm of just combining those different sets of work and private life. It's also a difficult time because for the first time you are leaving your baby, right? So the fact that you can really be flexible in terms of the time, meaning work only 50% of the time and at the same time being paid 100%, this is absolutely enormous opportunity. And many of our employees, they really highlight how great the benefit it is for them.
So you certainly have no issues with the relatability and inclusiveness aspects of such efforts. Can you tell us anything else about the program? Because it sounds really tangible, something that people can relate to.
But in terms of the pay gap, what specifically do you mean?
In terms of the pay gap, yes. And specific measures you're undertaking, because the examples you have just given are very interesting. Anything else you would like to add to this program framework?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that we are in the pretty lucky situation because this equal salary certification,
is the second time you're saying
that. You see, it means that I really believe in it, right?
Someone says they are lucky these days.
What I mean is that we've got the external body, meaning PwC, who is helping us in that terms that they are auditing us. So we've got really external body that is helping us to analyze enormous bunch of data. But I would say that in general, making any decision on D&I on pay gap should be based on data analysis. And it might sound obvious when it comes to the salary, but this is much more. It is also about, the promotions opportunities, about development. So I would say that what we are also doing is on the basis of this data analysis, we are trying to identify those groups that really could have this risk of being omitted in certain decision, or where we want to stimulate the growth and really, prevent creation of the pay gap, right? So we are looking at it, and when we have any development activity, like for example, mentoring program, then we are also considering to have a good ratio of men and women there in those development programs. So by giving you this example, I want to really highlight to all the people that it's not only about the salary, it's also about the different aspects of HR, like development opportunities, and as some previous speakers were mentioning, also recruitment, onboarding, etc.
Speaking of previous speakers, you remember how our conversation started today about the home office reality. How are your employees feeling with this home office? I'm sure you're getting a lot of feedback given how direct your rapport with employees is and the programs you mentioned. How are they feeling? Like, it's difficult to speak in terms of an average. How does the home office world, feel? Would they like it to continue, or would they rather come back?
I mentioned to you those focus groups that we had, and it gives us quite good insight to how they feel. So of course, people are different. Some of them, they highlight the fact that they've got a bit more of the flexibility when it comes to the working hours, and it's absolutely a great benefit. Also commuting time that is reduced. This is a great benefit. Some people, they are mentioning the fact that they don't have that many social interactions as the minus. So this is what we hear. And the general tendency is that people would like to get back to the office. However, also they would like to keep certain portion of this home office reality as well. So they would like to have a combination of both.
Interesting, because for a moment there, when you started telling me about this perspective, I thought you might be interested in putting a padlock on your office. But then you said a lot of people are actually missing the community experience, the networking part, being part of a group, which is essentially what all of us are missing in this environment.
Absolutely.
Tell me, anything based on your impressive experience in the field, anything you would like to share in terms of recommendations?
Yes, first of all, I would like to say that pay gap data analysis and all those aspects I mentioned before, it's not the end, because here we are talking about certain inequalities when it comes to women being maybe treated not that advantageous as the men in terms of salary, right? But there are some other aspects linked with, for example, parenting, like, for example, the fact that the care for the kids could be also shared. And we know that EU legislation is going into that direction, not only to have a mother as the primary caregiver, but also father being equally involved or involved into the bigger, let's say, stage of those leaves. And in PMI, we are also going into that direction. So here I want to highlight that our programs are not only focusing on women, but here also we want to give the chance to the men that we know that nowadays they really want to be involved into the growth of the babies. They want to spend the time and build their bonds. So globally, we are introducing the program that is supporting and encouraging the parents to share this care for the kid, for this first moment of the life. And in next year, we are going to implement it in Poland. So, Łukasz, I hope that when we will meet, hopefully next year, I can tell you a bit more about it.
Well, you never know, maybe hopefully in person. It was lovely to hear that you at some point actually said, we want to give the chance to the men, as if those heartless creatures didn't want to, feel part of their own child being born to this world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Monika, what I'm really especially impressed with is the fact that you're not having a mechanical approach to pay gap. You take into account the many variables and aspects. That's why auditing makes a lot of sense, because it's not such a straightforward process. Intuitively, people think, okay, pay the same to male and female representatives in your company, and that's it. But it's not. That's it. It's not as simple as that.
It's not. It's not. It's much more. And that's why I would say that two things are super crucial. First of all, is really focus on data. And it would be my first advice really to the other companies. But the second would be really to put the people, the employees in the center, to listen to them and listen to their voice. It might really sound trivial, I know, but I would say that this is really one of the most important aspects of understanding the situation.
Monika, so the overall conclusions I suppose is safe for us and wise to draw is that look at your community first, the men, women, LGBTQI community you're employing in your company, and think about how important a thing that is intuitively as simple as pay gap differences really is for your company. Monika, it's been a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for joining. Monika Sławińska-Sławecka, Manager Talent and Organization Development, Philip Morris. Thank you.